Hello again, welcome to Rough Cut Film Review. I keep thinking of having like a strapline, a tagline, but I don't have the imagination for it. So if you can think of, Rough Cut Film Review, because you can't trust professional film reviewers, something like that, but good, that would be useful. So this is the late review of The Expendables 2. So when I first heard about the premise of The Expendables, I was actually pretty excited. The idea of getting all these 80s action heroes back, 80s and 90s, putting them all together. I thought that was actually a really exciting idea. I thought that'd be really good fun. I thought that fun would be the word. And it turned out to be a really sort of strange, arrogant circle jerk of little or no merit that left a really confusingly unpleasant taste in the mouth. Because you thought, what are they actually trying to achieve with this? So, didn't like The Expendables. The second one is worse. I mean, they've turned everything up to 11. They've got a few more people in. The opening reel, it tells us all we really need to know. The team break into a compound and, they just turn it all up to 11. They take it in turns, shot by shot, to have, action hero A gunning down dozens of hapless bad guys in increasingly stupid ways. Then it'll shoot, the shot will move to action hero B. Then he'll do something elaborate and murder a load of other guys who are just sort of running around. And the setups for murdering all these hordes of screaming AK-47 toting baddies. It just becomes, all the more silly, all the more irritating, and all the louder. And there's banter between the characters, between everything. There's this banter that clearly the action stars themselves think is brilliant, but it's incredibly stale. It's so lazily written, and it's really poorly written as well. So they're all riffing off each other. But it's embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. It's, as a teenager, when I thought they were being cool, and I was a pretty lousy teenager. So, they say things like, my big weapon stays in my hands. And, between Sly Stallone and Arnie, they had, I hate owing you. Well, you do, big boy. That's really, apparently that's banter. And then we have, after the scene, actually, we've got, you've got my respect forever. You've got my respect too. So, and you're sitting there thinking, really? Honestly? So, why doesn't the film work? Well, I like the idea of getting all these action heroes together. But firstly, we've got a problem with a very, very serious problem with discipline. I firmly believe that most of the massive cast have got huge egos, and that's a really big problem. So what they need to do is pack in lots. They want to think of themselves as doing really cool things because that's the image they've got of themselves. So you've got to have action heroes A, B, C, D, E, F and G all murdering lots of people, a stupid amount of people. So there's no restraint. There can't be any restraint on the film, and the director clearly doesn't understand that concept anyway. But there's no emotional engagement because the whole thing is so loud and so so murderous. It reminds you of Hot Shots. When all those bad guys run out with targets painted on them, and they're doing the body count for the most bloody film, bloodier than RoboCop, etc., etc. But this is taking itself absolutely deadly seriously. So it's really loud, it's really disjointed. But on top of all these sort of egos, like, Sly Stallone, for example, he actually these guys are taking themselves really seriously. They don't have any sort of semblance of self-awareness of how we might view this as a piece of just sort of fun nostalgia. So that there's no sort of tongue-in-cheek stuff here. It's all played straight. So they're just trying to sort of wind the clock back and assume that no one's noticed due to the fact that they've got all these cool explosions and they've ramped everything up to 11. So in terms of the plot and the script and just what's going on here, they've always got someone's always a billionaire, and everything's got to be the most dramatic. So it's everything is turned up to 11, and it's just this wild, unconstrained sensationalism you'd associate with, a teenage boy, and not a mature teenage boy, one of those teenage boys that calls people a fag on Xbox Live. Do you know what I mean? It's that's where they're coming from. It's not even who it's aimed at. It's where where the filmmakers are coming from. So as the film progresses, it changes gear slightly, and suddenly we're supposed to, they try and be quite profound, and we're suddenly supposed to care about death. So the expendable characters, right? The Expendables, they are having the time of their lives murdering people, right? They're shooting people, laughing, cheering, clearly just, kid in a sweet shop kind of thing. And then it switches gear and we're supposed to care that someone died. And it's sort of, they get all serious and reflect on war and how it's hell and, well, hang on a second, no, you can't do that. You can't have it both ways. We can't just watch, dozens and dozens and dozens of people get casually and in fact murdered for the fun of it, largely. And then you can't go, this is hell. This is awful. So, the script can be best described, I suppose, as festive in that it's a complete turkey. Did this get through any script meetings? Did they have any script meetings, or was it just sort of jaded stars thinking it'd be cool and So all of the characters are incredibly poorly formed. It's full of really embarrassing cliches. Really, it's awful stuff. You just cringe because these people have got no self-awareness at all. I get a sense that most of them aren't actually nice people either, and that's probably, that probably makes me feel a lot better. The bad guy in this is Jean-Claude Van Damme. His character is basically called a villain, and they probably thought that was brilliant. They probably thought that was just great. And if it was done, in a sort of camp cheesy way, it might have been fun. But they're taking themselves seriously, and his plot is ridiculous. Again, it's the numbers have got to be the biggest. Everything's got to be it's so exciting. No, it isn't. For a long time, particularly after things like Total Recall, we saw the demise of the sort of 80s and 90s action hero. Suddenly these films became a bit a bit embarrassing, a bit beyond the behind the times, and I really mourned the death of these films because I really enjoyed them, and I thought it was a real shame that we didn't have those anymore. But having seen this, I think it ran its course and it's gone, and I'm perfectly happy it's gone. It had ran its course. That's the end of it now. It's worth mentioning, actually, something I've made a note of here. There are so many penis/gun references here. The whole thing just comes across as incredibly gay, so probably worse than Top Gun, really. And it's sort of, I get this real sense of, this person taking themselves incredibly seriously, sort of dressed in a chicken outfit or something, and then wrestling in jelly or something. But they're taking themselves absolutely seriously. I remember when I did my review of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I got, a bit miffed at it for not understanding its own joke. This doesn't understand its own joke. This doesn't understand why it exists, which is a bit of camp fun nostalgia. This isn't fun. This is absolute nonsense. So worth mentioning, actually, that Jason Statham is definitely the best thing in this. He's actually all right. He does his best, and I think he is actually a very good modern action hero. But everything else is just an absolute cringeworthy, embarrassing mess. And I think you've got my sense of the film now. I don't need to keep going on about it. So there we go. Expendables 2, just utter grot of the highest/lowest order. Kind regards.